we think it would be really cool for the people outside of the fire service to be able to know who's riding around on the big red fire trucks that are coming to their house when they call 911. Additionally, we've joked about it, about how you can sit next to somebody for 24 hours and not know all this crazy stuff about them. How many people have rode through Engine 38 that don't know that you wrote a children's book? And there's stuff that, on the flip side of that you probably didn't know about them too. But just hopefully be able to shine a light on some people in the fire service who are doing some pretty cool shit that people may not otherwise know about them. So I appreciate you coming out here and sharing that a little bit. Maybe it can relate to some veterans trying to get into the fire service, or just some regular people trying to get into the fire service. So if you're cool with it, maybe we'll just kind of start kind of at your military time, how you got into the military, move on into the fire service, and then just see where it goes from there if you're cool with that.
I want to know why you're such an overachiever.
No kidding, dude.
I mean, it's like, it's pretty significant.
Probably shouldn't put this one out first.
And those aren't like lightweight things on your resume there. Those are some pretty serious things that require serious investments and time and effort. And
yeah, it's pretty awesome.
It's impressive.
I don't know about overachieving. I just setting a goal and getting after it.
Dude, I can assure you my list would be much longer if you were interviewing me and read it to me. But yeah, dude, so you graduated Highland High School. Was it already on your mind to join the Air Force? And was it specific that you wanted to do what you ultimately did? I mean, what did that look like to you?
So graduated high school in 2003. So at that point, we already had troops in Afghanistan. And then the summer of 2003, I think, is when bombs were hitting Baghdad. So that was just, I didn't really have a plan for college. And a little fact too is that as a TACP, my grandfather was a TACP in Korea. The job changed a little bit. Enlisted members weren't calling in close to our sport at the time. It was the officers, but that was always in the back of my mind that my grandfather was a TACP. So I think I went in the Air Force as some other designation, like a loadmaster or something. Told the TACP recruiter to come find me, and jumped in 2003 to go through the pipeline as a TACP.
So specifically, what is that? Just like in general terms, I don't know how much Patrick looked into that. I have a little background on some books that I read that I thought were super fascinating, but what is your job as a TACP in the military?
So as a TACP, you're going to be attached to Army ground units, and it can be anywhere from like an armored unit, and we've had TACP guys go all the way up to Delta, essentially, and everything in between. So you could be with an airborne unit, air assault, special forces groups. TACPs are like everywhere, all over the globe. And it's a small career field too. Now it's been, a little less than 20 years since I've been out. So the career field might have changed a little bit, but for the most part, you're there to support the Army with close air support.
How close does that get? Like, because when you read about it and stuff, they talk about it's like chillingly close. Like what is like a capacity? Like, hey, you're here. How far out can you like say, this is where I need you to?
That completely depends on the aircraft you're using and the munitions that are coming off and where the enemy is. So that situation's so dynamic in those kind of kinetic situations.
Wow.
I can't say that, I had shrapnel falling on me and blowing out my eardrums from anything that was that close. But for some controllers out there, yeah, it gets pretty gnarly.
Right up on you.
Yep.
So, and obviously it's been a long track. So the All Army Combatants, what is that altogether?
So I was one of the few Air Force guys, just because I had the privilege of being attached to the Army, living on Army bases. When I went through the All Army Combatives competition, I think in 2008, it was just me, one other Navy SEAL, and then the rest of the guys were Army. So you couldn't just be like any branch jumping in. You had to be predominantly with the Army to be in the All Army Combatives competition. So unless it's changed, it's usually at Fort Benning, and you would do anywhere from 3 to 5 grappling matches. So just submissions. And then if you made it through that, then you do pancration, which is open hand to the face, closed fist to the body. And those are, like you'd have some shin pads on, but, no gloves.
Yeah.
And then if you made it through that, it was MMA rules. I don't think there was any elbows or knees to the head, but everything else was a go. And then you usually, fight in the ring in front of, the general and the main officers at Fort Benning. So it was pretty cool.
Dang.
So yeah, I came in first loser, second place. I lost to a dude from Bragg, but it was still an awesome experience.
Dang.
Yeah.
I want to fight in 8th grade. Just letting you know. So don't think you're the big hot shot at the table.
What were the rules? Like you pushed him real hard and your buddy was sitting behind him?
He knocked my books out of my hand.
Yeah.
So I let him
sure.
know who his boss.
Somebody knocked the books out of my hand. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I was 65 pounds, so look out.
See, you've lost a little weight.
Yeah.
Right on, man.
Thanks, Ben.
I'm sorry, dude.
You know, I'm
So
sensitive about my weight.
yeah, so I apologize. So you're going through the military. At what point in your time? But there was a pretty good gap, right, between your military service and between getting into the fire department, right?
Correct.
So what kind of like filled the gap? What ultimately turned you into trying to get involved in the fire service?
So as soon as I got out of the military, I went and started working on my undergrad. Got that in a bunch of like pre-med classes. Everything that pre-med still need now. They got their undergrad, they got their OChem, biochem, all the nerd stuff, right, to take the MCAT. So I was working at the Mayo Clinic. I was around a bunch of brilliant physicians. Took all the stuff. Had pretty good grades. Good letters of rec, but I couldn't cut it with getting a decent MCAT score to go to the places that I wanted to go. But I knew I wanted to be emergency medicine in some capacity. So we didn't want to leave Arizona, so I decided to stay. I'm like, how can I be a part of emergency medicine? Well, that's what the Phoenix Fire Department. So that's where that gap is getting my undergrad from NAU in paramedicine and then join the Phoenix Fire Department.
It's amazing, dude.
Nice, man. So, class 16-1 went through that. Were you part of like were FireVet something that mentored you, or was it something you got into after you were on?
FireVet's a little bit bigger now, but yeah, I had mentorship from Brett Stevens and Rich LeRae and Joaquin Torres and a bunch of guys that have been on the department for a little bit that all had military experience. So I got to ride along with them. So yeah, I got some great mentorship.
Yeah. Okay. So, and that's something that in the past that we kind of had glossed over. Somebody who is listening as a firefighter, specifically in Phoenix or the Valley, would probably know exactly what FireVet is. But like you obviously became a very big part of FireVet, and then I know you still to some degree are involved. But what does FireVet all do?
FireVet is just our nonprofit mentorship program. So a lot of guys that are getting out, they have some great skills, and not even just military, but a lot of people have some great knowledge and skills from life. So we're going to teach you how to take those skills and talk about those in your interview. We know how big the interview process is, whether it's your first or your second round, or even some guys getting a third round. You need to convey those experiences like appropriately, and military is great. So at least like probably half the questions can become from military, and then the other half can come from other experiences. And then some guys, had a pipe hitter job, like, tip of the spear kind of profession in the military, and then some guys didn't. So everybody still needs to know what it's like to be hot in some turnouts. So, getting out in that Arizona sun, getting the turnouts, getting acclimated to the heat. So between the interview process and getting in some workouts, or what we call skills courses, it's a combination of the both to get them ready.
So when you got into the fire service, what were the parallels? Was it as you expected? Was there things that you enjoyed about it that kind of was exactly what you're looking for? Were there some things like, oh, I didn't expect this and I liked it, and I didn't expect this and I didn't like it? What were the parallels between the military, or was it exactly what you thought it was going to be? Or
I didn't have any family, so like there's just some unexpected things, but I do like the camaraderie from the civilian aspect. I think it's one of the closest things you can probably get to the military in terms of camaraderie. Is it the same? No, I'd be lying if I said it was, but it's close. And so if guys are kind of missing that, they're missing that camaraderie from the military, the fire department's a good place to start. That's for sure.
gotcha, right on.
Definitely.
And then we'll get more into your experience on that, but like we'll hit some of the stuff that Patrick and I were kind of giving you shit for as far as the overachieving. You started getting in. When did you start getting into the writing and the different things that you're doing there?
The writing. So I've always kind of been like an artist. So I started writing a book for my daughters, and I didn't really want it to become anything. And I'll just be clear. It's like self-published. I don't have like a literary agent. It's not, I'm not in some big New York publishing house, but
I'll be clear. You can buy it online. I've bought multiple of them, and we read it to our kids. So go grab it. 7 Doctors. I'll say it for Josh.
But I was trying to find like an artist to do the book, and they were charging like insane amounts. And I didn't want it to be AI. There's tons of AI. Like I want things to be real, pencil to the paper. So they're charging an obscene amount of money. I was like, all right, I'll just draw the pictures myself. And then just wrote it and kind of put it together, gave it to my daughters, showed it to a couple of people. They're like, hey, why don't you just print it out a little bit and just see what happens?
Yeah.
So
and then that transitioned into the work you're doing now,
right.
like within Harvard.
Yeah. I mean, I've always kind of like poetry and writing short stories and stuff. And I think I wanted to start putting some of my experiences from the military and the deployments maybe before it went too long, and I was going to miss certain memories, or some of them were going to fade. So I was like, all right, I'm going to start journaling and writing about those. And then it just kind of kept evolving. into something else. And so I was looking at courses between Arizona State and Harvard Extension and a couple others, and I really liked the curriculum of Harvard Extension. And ASU's was, I think, was going to be online anyway, so I was like, okay, that's a no-brainer. I might as well, go to Harvard, and I'll be out there in a few weeks on campus for my writer's residency and all that. So my capstone project will be hopefully a novel that I'm going to write about a couple veterans that have been dishonorably discharged under I don't know, certain circumstances, and they're bitter about it, and they have to go into a life of thievery until they come across like a mobster who's actually based off of Sammy the Bull Gravano and kind of what was going on in Arizona back when I was in high school. And it just kind of is a crazy ride following these guys around.
Dude, like he's like willingly shared all details up to this point, but there's been like a certain like Dr. Evil grin that he's kind of grabbed when he started talking about writing a novel about the specifics of that. That's kind of funny, man. Good for you, dude. That's gonna be cool. And now, so we're in the career, and some of the stuff that we want to talk about. One of the things that we've been talking about is specifically cancer. Obviously, that we did the dying, he did the Dying to Save You stuff, the film, with some of our members working on another one called The Last Firefighters. What is your perspective on cancer in the fire service, or do you have any thoughts on it? Like, what's going in? Was that something you entered your career thinking about at all? Is it something you think about now?
It was always kind of like one of those things where I'm like, well, it's a possibility. But again, too, like, yeah, it's definitely a factor. Obviously, we just lost Anthony Mock, and he's younger than me when he passed away. So that one stings bad. But it's definitely a factor. I mean, the carcinogens and the sleep deprivation, our body's not healing. It's definitely a factor, and it's got to be a factor that guys are aware of before they get on the job. Shouldn't be a surprise.
Yeah. And what about mental health stuff? Have you thought about that? Is there anything that you think is, I don't know, just any thoughts on that? It seems like it's a lot more readily available now, or is there any thoughts on that you have on that?
I think the member services does a really good job. But yeah, I mean, you see everything. You see everything on this job. I mean, I think I've seen more carnage being a Phoenix firefighter paramedic than I probably did on both deployments.
Yeah.
It's like that quote from Inglorious Bastards, I think, like, wait till you see it. Wait till you see what a man can do to another man.
Didn't Kerry Ramella say, like, a firefighter can see 3 traumatic things on a shift when most people see 3 traumatic things in a lifetime?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I believe that.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, and I think, too, with some departments, like, we just run more calls. Like, there's some smaller departments that run less calls, less trauma, right? You with the big city fire department, I mean, we run in dog years. You're just going to see more stuff.
Yeah.
And it does collect over time, and I think it's important to talk about those things and address them, too, so they don't build up.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. Like when Ben Dubin was saying, when Ben got into a spin, it was because of an injury. And I hadn't even thought of that angle with mental health in the fire service, that when a guy is taken off a truck because he's got an injury and he's home for 6 months and he's not around his guys and his and he's not going out and helping people, that's a big load there.
Yeah,
for those guys.
I think so, and that's what Carrie had talked about. And maybe you can speak to this, because one of the things that Carrie said can be dangerous for us in our profession is that when you lose your physical outlet, if you will, you don't realize how much it has to do with your mental peace and your mental health that you have going on. So one of the things that Ben Dubin, he's from Tempe, he came and talked to us about something he experienced. Once he physically got hurt, he wasn't able to do things that he was used to doing every single day, and ultimately it really hurt his mental life, or his mental health. And I guess you can speak to that too, because I know one of the things that you do is you go roll at 10th Planet. I think you guys actually do it at the station too. Sometimes you guys have set up how big of a piece that is, that if you just snatch that out of your life with an injury or something like that, it's like, whoa.
Yeah,
Like,
whether it's a fire department injury, just in the gym, jujitsu, yeah, I mean, I think it's mentally crippling too. Like, just being injured and not doing what you want to do. Yeah, I mean, I think probably the lowest times I've had, like, in my life is where, like, I let my physical fitness slide. I mean, there's a synergistic relationship between physicality and your mental well-being, for sure.
I don't know. Yeah.
That's why I bench press 500 pounds every morning.
Yeah.
Did you see Josh look at my arms? He's like, that guy's an effing liar.
Yeah, right. What
You'd be surprised. Like there's, you know, I if somebody said that, I'm like, oh yeah, possibly I might need to see it. But I mean, there's some dudes on the jujitsu mat, and they're like, oh, this guy's kind of skinny or whatever, and then they get a hold of you, and you get a hold of them, and you're like, is this dude like turning wrenches all day? Like, you know, there's
dad strength. He's like
Yeah.
an ant.
I stopped jujitsu after 10 years because I was just tired of beating everybody.
for
And
sure.
I
It's
just-
like,
I
man,
just
everybody's
stopped.
just tapping
Yeah.
every time
So
I get near him.
I'm just looking for something more difficult to do now.
Right.
Dude. Yeah, that's what it takes. So there was this thing after one of the events that we had called Firefighter Appreciation Day that was set up. Remember when Ryan Bader's gym?
Yeah.
It was going to be Firefighter Appreciation Day. They're like, we're just going to show you guys some things. Dude, I've never been so sore in my life. Like everything I'd ever learned about jiu-jitsu just fell out of my head. And I got him over here strangling me. And it's like, oh, who's next to appreciate firefighters? Like just literally killing us. And I remember they like tie us up and do some stuff. And I was like, okay, well now what are we going to do? And was it Sully Colley, right?
Yeah, Sully's got like a big fight coming up.
And I
too.
saw that. Yeah. But he like ties you up and gets you to the ground. And I was like, oh, this is terrible. Now what? And
No,
he's
it
like,
gets worse.
well, now I would hit you if we weren't just showing you things. I was like, my God,
Yeah,
this
it
is
gets
terrible.
worse.
Yeah. And he was actually competing in this. Like me and Elliot Simmons were out there. We just got
Oh,
demolished.
Elliot.
Yeah. Dude that just like threw us around for like an hour. And he's like, can I go in the octagon and spar with you guys? I was like, really? Go get him, Josh.
No, the Ben's leaving out a funny part. Like he's rolling, and I think I thought he just jammed his finger or something. He definitely hurt his hand, and he goes up to me and he goes, "Is this normal?" And I go, "Yeah, we jam our fingers all the time." That's my grunt way, or paramedics be like, "Yeah, you're fine." As the dad, and like, "Yeah, you're fine. Your fingers are gonna hurt." And then a week later, he's like, "Oh, I like broke something in there."
Multiple
He just
fractures
kept
on
he
my
just
finger.
kept
Really?
he just kept rolling with a
Yeah.
broken finger and a
It
broken
was
hand
a-
or something.
It's like the typical dad move. Like, you're fine, walk it off. Oh, it's dislocated. Sorry. Yeah. It worked out.
Nice.
All panned out all right.
It would have been weirder if it was like a broken leg.
He
And
probably would have
it-
been able to
yeah,
identify
yeah,
it too. So
yeah.
I
It's
don't
like, I
fault
don't
you too
think
much.
that thing's
We can still be
pointing
friends.
right.
Yeah. It's all good. Are you still doing a lot of stuff with that? Are you going to compete in that, or is it kind of had to take a back seat to?
Yeah, it's taken a little bit of a backseat too. Like I still feel young, even though we're like the same age. I still feel young, like I can go, but you know, there's high mileage. There's high mileage on this body, so I got to be careful. I got to be conservative. Some of these tournaments you can go to, I mean, you're fighting over a gold medal. Some dude will twist your leg in the wrong direction or like a heel hook, and it's unforgiving. And those are those injuries we're talking about. Is it worth it to go to a tournament and go with somebody that might be a little rambunctious out there on the mats for that gold medal?
Yeah.
And you know, the repercussions can be very high. So I am conservative. I roll occasionally, but I gotta be conservative and know who I'm rolling with and trust those partners. So I go to occasional like open mats, get back to 10th Planet whenever I can. I love those guys. I'm in the PB Abate Fight Club, and they do like an annual retreat every year. This organization's great, by the way, PB Abate.
Did talk about that a little bit, because Dan Higgins had told me about it, and now we've briefly talked about it, but it's kind of a cool thing that they do.
So Matthew Abate, like your quintessential Marine, who was KIA in 2010. So the organization is named after him. But they've just got a great mission statement. They have multiple retreats. It could be fly fishing, hunting, fight club, strength club, book club. I mean, every avenue or hobby, I think they pretty much almost have it covered. And they bring veterans out, whether it's in Montana at their base camp or other places. And it's a way for veterans to reconnect with each other. And then the only box you need to check is, are you a veteran? Doesn't matter what you did, what you're doing now, but it's something we all kind of share together. And we're doing something that's, you know, kind of outside that military realm, like one of those hobbies. So this organization's really great.
Which transitions nicely into the next thing that I know that you're working on is your dive stuff. You're planning, you can explain a little bit about what you're working on right now. And then ultimately, I know we've talked a little bit about what you're going to go do out in San Diego.
Right. So,
San Diego.
Which is, never mind. We'll stay away from that.
You could say it. It's our
No, it's
show.
okay, it's all right.
Becky back there, she could bleep you.
All right. Well, good.
so one of my dive mentor, Mike Bruno, of Phoenix Fire. I mean, he's been diving for 40 years. So yeah, crazy amount of knowledge. Trained me to dive, and I don't know what it is about it. Like if you haven't done it, it's kind of hard to explain, but it's probably one of the most therapeutic things I've ever done. And first off, I'm like, I just want to dive. I just want to have it if I go on vacation. And then it's morphing into like something else where it's like, I want to go down this path and keep learning more, being a rescue diver, learning videography underwater, all that kind of stuff. So that's transitioning to getting my advanced open water, and then eventually down the road getting my dive master after I've racked up so many dives and I get the blessing from instructors. And then transitioning to this trip that we're doing with PB Abate and some other veterans. We are going to take, I think, anywhere from 8 to 10 veterans that have never dived before. We're going to get them their dive certification here in Arizona, and they're going to do their first ocean dive on Catalina Island in October, and we're going to introduce them as this a wellness therapy scuba diving trip. So we're going to get it all on video, mini documentary. It's going to be great.
Yeah, that's pretty
That's
cool.
super dope. You can do underwater filming?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got like a little Fisher Price camera. You know, I got like a GoPro.
Sure.
It does the trick, but I mean, just with like kind of the camera equipment that you have at this spot, like it just the spectrum's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll have harnesses that are like between $10,000 and $30,000.
Nice.
So I'll get my way up there.
Nice. Nice. I'd want the underwater footage.
We probably have to get one of those now. I think we need
Yes.
an underwater
I mean,
camera.
I think
Add it
like
to
a
the
week and a
budget.
half ago, I mean, I'll have to show you after the podcast, but I mean, I was in Guaymas near San Carlos in Mexico, and I mean, I had like seals. They were just like swimming and dancing around me. Like it's just not doing it justice even saying it, how surreal that moment is when
Yeah.
you have just wildlife.
And you don't mean Navy SEALs. You mean like SEAL SEALs,
No.
like the original ones.
Yeah, the OGs.
Yeah. So yeah, there's that sounds awesome, dude, because it actually feeds right into like mental health, like what we had talked about. Everybody kind of has their coping thing. For Ben Dubin, it's that he has the breathing stuff, the cold submission. Then you have other people who are going to talk it out. But I think just the more that we can throw out there to be able to give people opportunities to be able to address kind of some things in the closet that maybe they're not dealing with or don't even know that are in there, I think it'll be pretty cool. So it sounds like that's what you guys will be working on.
I think whatever it is, whether it's, you know, I go ride horses or I go hunting, you know, diving, journaling, you know, your cold plunges, find something that just kind of disconnects you from the station and those calls, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Find your thing, because you're not always going to be on the fire department either.
Yeah.
Right. And there's going to be a disconnect when you leave the job, and that could be at 5-10 years. Let's say you got an injury, or it's not working out for you, or you go the full amount of time, 20-25 years, and you leave. Like, what's your thing? What are you going to be doing? You're just going to keep working?
Yeah.
No, like live a little bit.
Yeah. Find something that's not so just dependent on showing up to the station every third day.
Right.
And then one other thing, and we'll let you off the hook and we'll see where this goes. I'm actually excited about it. Patrick, I don't know if you've seen any, but a lot of the fire service related podcasts, and you talk about leadership and just really anywhere in leadership, it's pretty easy to go like the negative route. To be like, hey, this is wrong, and I can't believe people do this, and I can't believe people do that, which gets us ultimately nowhere. Solely knowing what not to do isn't necessarily helpful. But I think you have something that's a unique thing in the fire service. Is you've committed to being a senior firefighter. You've been eligible for captain's test, and you've decided like, no, I'm going to be a senior firefighter. That's not what I'm trying to do. So as I was getting ready for a captain's test, getting ready for a chief's test, what I always tried to keep in the back of my head is when I was a firefighter, what did I appreciate about captains? What did I appreciate about chiefs, about the way that they led? We have a few, maybe 200-300 people. I don't know what it is exactly, getting ready for a captain's promotional test right now in Phoenix. And I think it's really very easy to dive in just to tactics, just to interview questions. But from your perspective, as somebody who's really committed and put a lot of work into being a good senior firefighter, what have you seen as far as leadership goes, specifically probably from captains who are coming into your truck, whether it's roving or your Captain Joel, who's been there for a long time? I know he's going another place now, but what have you seen that has really helped the leadership qualities or the things that people have done as a captain on a fire truck that really helps you in your role as a senior firefighter?
So I'll start with, before I get to the captain that's there all the time, Joel, you know, guys that are roving in, doing a shift trade in A-dub, or they're getting a little bit of overtime, kind of coming in and really doing a scene size up and seeing what their crew is. They're coming in, they're asking questions too, like, can you tell me about this dude? Like, are we running into other cities, et cetera, et cetera? Like, that curiosity is still there, that they want to be prepared. And that's great. You're coming in, you're already asking questions. I like that. Good. That tells me you have a little bit of initiative and you care where you're at for the day. And two, like, sizing up, like, how are you taking care of yourself? Like, right? Are you leading from the front? Are you staying active? Are you just have you gone into a leadership role and like, oh, I'm not pulling the line off a truck. I don't need to be in shape anymore. Like, I think that's completely unacceptable. So it's like those small things, being curious about where you're at, staying motivated, whether that's mentally with your first due, knowing about your crew, even if you're only going to have them for 24 hours, staying in shape. So I think all those little things add up, and maybe the little things are actually big things.
I think so. Yeah. And then so Joel, like some of the station environment, thoughts on that? Because I know you're a big fan of Joel. I am too. I think he's awesome. So anything that he did really successfully that you think could be pulled from?
All those things, like, Joel's late 40s, and you couldn't tell.
No.
Like he in phenomenal shape, always has a great command presence, is always motivated, and like a perfect example too. Christmas, I'll throw this out. Can I give an example?
Yeah.
Like what a leader actually does. So Christmas morning, we get two booters, never been on the rescue before. They have been constant staffed to be on the rescue. They didn't know they were going to be there on Christmas morning. Forced overtime to be there at the station. And we've got all of our families out. It's Christmas morning. The food's out. We get a call for a very, very big lady. And I'm going to give you some arbitrary number, but it's pretty close, probably 600, 700 pounds. Vaginal bleed. Christmas morning, all the families are there, and it's just like, man, things aren't going right. There's not a fresh battery in the gurney. We're all like lifting this thing in the rescue, and it's just like, Joel's like, I got this. You guys go back. She's stable. It's a stable patient. But it's like, that was the leader. He's like, I'm going to take this to the hospital. I'm going to see this through. You guys go back with the families. I'm going to have the rescue bring it back. Just like that right there, leading from the front. Total solid move. The story gets a little bit funnier, and I won't go into it on the transition of this lady in the hospital.
Yeah.
But that was just like a great leadership move. And that's something that I also saw in the military too.
Yeah, just like leading by example.
By example, yeah.
It's kind of easier to do the hard stuff when you know that the person asking you to do it is more than willing to do it themselves or is doing it themselves.
Right.
So,
or like just knowing, like maybe you've seen a guy that's like spent, like mentally spent for the day, and you're like, you know what, I'll pick up that chart, or I'll do that. Knowing how to like read your crew, and knowing when we're all kind of trying to help each other. That's something he does very well. And then he is leaving. He's going to a different station, but that just shows how ambitious he is to still learn new stuff. Right, he's going to be getting technical rescue and hazmat, and going to pretty much the Swiss Army knife truck of like the Phoenix Fire Department, which is our squad that does a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And eventually working towards FEMA. Like he's still towards the back end of his career, and he's still ambitious enough to take on some new roles when some guys would be like, no, I'm just going to ride it out.
Yeah.
Just where I'm comfortable.
Yeah. No, he's good, man. And I think that's solid information. I think it becomes like the easy button to maybe go talk to someone like myself or somebody else who's in the captain or chief type role, but sometimes gets overlooked. Like, hey, maybe the guys that you actually are trying to lead are maybe a good place to go to get some information about how to be successful in that role. So appreciate you sharing that. Patrick, you didn't know anything about firefighters, really anything, 2-3 years ago? I feel like you're
my
going to
dad
be
was
like
a firefighter, so I knew what he looked like when he walked out the door.
Yeah,
but
I feel like you've become a firefighter cancer expert, a firefighter mental health, working on that certification, and now we're going to have like a fire department leadership type thing. Is there anything that you think is worth pulling out, or anything else you want to?
I just find your mustache incredibly distracting. So that's all I'm thinking about.
It's a good looking mustache.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you.
I tried growing one out, and they at one station that I was at on my rescues, and they just kept playing like the Super Mario Brothers theme. They just kept saying I look like Mario. So I made it like 3 weeks. I'm like, oh man. So
all right, well,
yeah,
it's probably gonna be his last day. All right, it's his last day.
It was funny. I started filming for United Phoenix Firefighter Charities like nine years ago, something like that, maybe almost 10. And I didn't even mention how many people in my family were firefighters until like 6 months ago. I don't think anybody really knew. I was the one that skipped being a first responder. I wanted to be an artist, kind of like you.
Yeah. Well, it's been a cool journey. I think he's going to be like a 20-year-old guy now at this point. He's going to
for sure
know like all the ins and outs. He's going to be saying goo, and he's going to be saying all the like.
He's going to start calling me pard.
Yeah, it's going to be wild.
He's going to know all the Phoenix slang.
Are you on the fire department? No. Got it all figured out though.
Yeah, well, I'll always be easy to pick out in the room as the filmmaker because I'm not like thick and competent and capable looking like you guys are.
You can be our honorary member.
Yes.
It's like, guess which one's the filmmaker? It's like, where's Waldo? It's like, that guy. That guy's the filmmaker there.
Turns out it might be Josh too. Now he's kind of
it could be
over into that lane.
It's super cool. You're creative. Did you draw as a kid?
Yeah. a lot. I mean, it's one of those things too. It's like, oh man, it kind of got lost, being an adult, go in the military, and there's just not like a lot of time for. Well, I didn't make time. Let's be honest. I didn't make time for those kind of skills to keep them up. But for some reason, it's just there, and I want to stay on top of it.
I used to draw too all the time. Like as soon as you could put a crayon in my hand, I was drawing. And then Photoshop came out, and it was hard. It was so much cooler to design in digital with pixels because you could get really crazy. And I just literally don't draw anymore except sketching something on a napkin. But I should probably get back to that. It's probably good for mental health.
I think there's a way I mean, with some of these apps are so good, like on iPads and the computer, like you're drawing stuff and then you're kind of using all kinds of things and you're blending both worlds.
Yeah.
So I think there's room there for sure.
Do you have aspirations for another book?
Not maybe a children's book.
An adult book?
Adult book, yeah. I think the novel, short stories, I really like writing short stories, poetry. Not a ton of money like in that. You really have to like just do it because you like it. But novels for sure, short novels, like 200 pages or so. Yeah.
I know two poets, Shakespeare and Pablo Neruda. And I had a buddy who told me, he's like, you got to learn some poetry. And I'm like, why? And he's like, because girls will like that. I mean, it's good, adds to your dimension, And so I got a Pablo Neruda, who's some Chilean poet or something like that, but it was all translated to English. And I memorized a couple of poems, but never used that. I feel like I could have benefited from that, but just didn't come to mind at the time to start.
Universal draw for things we
exactly.
do.
But I mean, like even we had poetry as a kid. I mean, I think everybody pretty much got a Dr. Seuss or like a Shel Silverstein book, right? I mean, that's essentially poetry in my eyes. We read the Shel Silverstein books to this day. I still love them. They're great. It's so creative and that's just going to stand the test of time of how good his writing was and how funny it was.
Still
and quirky.
Yeah.
I have to ask you though, how many copies of the book do you have in your possession of the children's book?
Like just kind of in a box somewhere?
Yeah.
I don't know if I have any left.
Really?
I just, So, I mean, I probably need to make another order. Not that I'm like, they're not like flying off the shelves. I don't think I've made another order.
Yeah. We interviewed an author some years ago, and she said that she had her first like run, she printed like 2,000 books. And then it came up later on that she still has like 1,850 books in her garage. And she's moved them from place to place and house to house. And so she's was like giving them away. But
I got a decent chunk in my garage or in my house that I've actually got.
Do you have a photo of the book or anything? Is it on Amazon or anything?
I think it's through Barnes and Noble.
I think that's where I ultimately bought it because I bought a few of them because I gave them as gifts too at kids' parties and stuff. And then remember we gave them when we met up with the C4 folks. When we met up with them that one day, I gave Dave one because Dave's wife was a teacher. So she brought it and put it in her classroom. Yeah,
I was trying to get it published. I got some feedback from some literary agents, so I could go back and maybe even redo it because it's not officially published. But I think there's something there that I could probably push it.
Is it black and white or color? Or?
No, it's color. Yeah. And I think I tried getting it printed through Amazon, but they have a certain like minimum amount of pages. So Barnes and Noble fit that minimum amount of pages to print it for me.
How many pages is it?
Oh, it's not very long. I think maybe 12, 15. It's
100 pages?
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is. Barnes and Noble.
Oh, how cool is that?
It was a fun project. Like I said, I really didn't intend for it to go anywhere. It was just for my daughters, just to teach them healthy habits, basic stuff like eat good food and get sunlight and that kind of stuff. All the basic things that apply to adults.
Yeah.
Maybe some adults I can give this to as well.
They're like learning as they read it to their kids.
Right. Like, oh yeah, I should eat good food.
This is a good idea. All right. Perfect. What do you think? Anything else you want to add to it?
No. I mean, you guys got any questions?
I always have
military questions, firefighter questions.
So, do your daughters come to the station and stuff and see what you have going on? Do they have any interest in that?
Holidays. Just typical, like what you would have like your family over on holidays and stuff. But they're super busy. My girls are like competitive, like company dancers and stuff. So if I get any kind of
what's a company dancer?
That's like the highest level of Well, the most amount of money they take from
Yes.
parents, I guess.
It's $850 a month is what it is.
Yeah, it's a little bit more than that.
Really?
funny,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Oh my
It's great
gosh.
too because I think, and maybe this is the same. So my sister's daughters they'll win a competition and they'll be like, "Congratulations, you get free entry into the next competition that's in Florida that costs
Right.
like $27, but the trip is going to be $3,000."
Yeah, right.
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 Great.
I think with
Thanks.
any kid, whether it's gymnastics or dancing, and you want them to excel in that sport, it's club. You're traveling, the private lessons, the hotels and the fees for everything. I'm not going to just say it's just for the dance world. It's for like
Everything
everything.
now.
Anything
Yeah.
that gets them away from screens and gets them socializing with other human beings, and particularly working on stuff in groups, is so huge for kids. And
Then that's something I have to like remind myself. All right, yes, it is expensive, but you're getting instruction from another adult, right? I have to remind myself of this, right? They're in shape. They're with like-minded
physical,
kids. They're not getting in trouble.
Yeah.
They have a goal to work towards. So, I think there's definitely far more pros and cons.
plus
Yes,
they're
it's
learning
expensive,
how to
but
support each other and
exactly.
stuff
Like it's a
super
team.
healthy
It's
to
a
do.
team thing too. So that's
Yeah.
important. Life lessons.
Yeah, yeah. But when we were talking about his daughters coming to the station, do your sons ever go, I want to go to the station?
It's peaks and valleys though, and I don't know if that's what you've experienced too. Like my kid, there was a period of time there. My oldest one, my son isn't necessarily there where he's talking. My younger son, the 4-year-old, where he's talking necessarily about what he wants to be when he grows up. But there was a period of time there where my 6-year-old, like we would drive by an accident and it was like, look at all the cop cars. I was like, who cares? Like, you want to do the cop thing, right? And then it's now kind of like cycled back into like wants to look at the fire trucks, thinks that stuff is cool. So I don't know, my kids are too young to know any better. His kids are a little bit older than mine. And certainly there's that cycle where, kids grow up in the fire station, become firefighters themselves. I don't know how to have any gauge on whether or not that's going to happen, but my kids do like coming to the station. Half the time it's because they see dad and hang out. And then the other half of the time it's because they're excited to see the trucks and be at a fire station. So yeah, it's kind of hard to gauge. I don't know if that's been your experience
Yeah,
too.
I think with any kid, whether they're our kids or any kid, like fire truck might as well be like a big beacon, like Big Red. Whether you're pulled up on a scene or like you're going out somewhere to eat or grocery shopping or whatever, like kids just gravitate towards that thing. I did as a kid. Like one of my first pictures I think with an engine was standing on the bumper of like engine 4.
Yeah.
I was probably 3 or 4 years old, and they were, I don't know, probably just flowing some water at the park or something.
Yeah. It's pretty cool, man. And I don't know that maybe everyone doesn't agree with me, but it's still like something that on some days you pinch yourself, being able to put on a blue shirt that you worked your ass off to be able to get. And then the fact that you load up on a fire truck with 4 of your friends, you're just like, dude, this is pretty cool.
Yeah,
Like,
I remember my first ride along that you connected me to, was Station 22 or whatever. I'm like, these guys are getting paid for this. It was.
Yeah.
I just couldn't believe it. It's like I can see a lot of people want to do that for free,
And I think that's what you have to remind yourself of some days. Like you go on the bad, terrible calls that we talk about where it's like, man, that's terrible. But then you kind of like soak it in for a second. And you realize that you're around 3 of your best friends.
Yeah.
You're cruising around on $1 billion fire truck.
Yeah. You're on this very expensive like apparatus, whether it's the engine or ladder or whatever, but it's definitely peaks and valleys. Definitely a roller coaster, because there are some days where it's like, man, if one more person calls me for their anxiety, and not a real emergency, and it's, your 3rd or 4th call after midnight, and you're just mentally cooked. And then there's other days where it's just a normal amount of calls, and it's nonstop laughter to the point of you're crying, in the truck.
Yeah.
Just hanging out with your dudes.
Yeah.
And everything in between.
The first call that I went on was to Grand Canyon University. It was the dorms. It was for like a potential overdose or something like that. And there was a student who texted a friend in another state that she took like all the Advil pills or whatever. She was trying to hurt herself. And so that person's parents then called a fire department out here, and then we responded to the call, and the girl's like, it turned out she was lying. She didn't take any pills at all. It was like, it's like,
yeah, those are far and
she
few
like
between.
opens the
It's
door.
usually all fire calls and pretty serious stuff. But Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody who wasn't a pro couldn't have figured that whole thing out. I'm sure. So,
Yeah, but that was my first call, and I'm like, this is kind of lame.
Yeah.
I actually haven't seen any smoke at all on any call.
we
I've
got to
been
just
like,
keep getting you out there. I know.
Yeah.
I get
I've been on
discouraged.
like 15 ride-alongs.
It could be a
They're the
writer's
quietest
curse.
days.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
totally. I hear about that, and it's true because I've seen nothing but
Like we've had some nursing
Nothing-
students, I
no-
think,
no
from Arizona
fires.
State that have showed up at 38, and most of the time, like it's writer's curse, they're not getting anything. But then the nurses we had, I think maybe a few weeks ago, it's like we're pulling somebody out of a pool, drowning full code, and they were just
jeez.
like, wide-eyed, and
that's
Yeah.
horrible.
yeah,
That's got to be the worst thing.
There's a few things up there for sure, but again, it's all a perspective thing to me. It's still, I feel pretty lucky every single day that we're at a fire station. You see this big, massive truck that when you're a kid, you remember spraying water on engine 4, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's now my job to climb up on that thing on any of the calls and go on it. It's pretty cool.
It is super cool. Or you could be a filmmaker.
that's pretty
cool
awesome.
too.
though.
Yeah.
yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. I'd rather be a firefighter. I'm just.
Well, yeah, dude. I think that's a majority of it. I know now you're gonna take my seat and figure out the next one.
Yeah,
Right on.
Super nice meeting you.
Yeah.
Super nice talking
thanks
to
for
you.
having me.
We'll see you in the next podcast.
For sure.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
All right, dude. Thanks, man.